Hello and welcome to Zee Commodity Capsule. Let's start with Brent crude prices, which are holding close to $105–$106 a barrel range after having shed nearly 2% in the previous trading session. Now, pausing their recent advance is the investors shifting the focus towards the meeting which is happening in China for the day 2 between US President Donald Trump and the Chinese President Xi Jinping. Now, the leaders are expected to center the discussion on trade rather than tensions surrounding the Iran war, although Washington recently intensified pressure on Tehran by threatening banks and imposing fresh sanctions on entities involved in the Iranian oil sales to China. Meanwhile, US Energy Information Administration reported that crude oil and the fuel flows through Strait of Hormuz declined by nearly 6 million barrels per day in the first quarter after the Middle East conflict erupted in late February. IEA has also warned that global oil market is likely to remain heavily underpinned until October, even if the conflict ends next month, while Saudi Arabia informed OPEC that its oil output fell to the lowest level since 1990. Coming to gold prices, which have weakened a bit and are trading close to $4,700 an ounce on Thursday, sliding for the third straight session as rising US inflation reinforced the expectations that Federal Reserve could keep the interest rates higher for longer or even hike them before the end of this year. US wholesale inflation accelerated in April to its fastest pace since 2022, fueled by higher trade and energy costs which are currently linked to the Iran war. Now, markets are closely watching President Trump's visit to China for signs of progress on the fragile trade truce and the developments surrounding the Iran conflict. Silver prices, meanwhile, climbed to $88 an ounce in the previous trading session, hovering close to above 2-month high, although they have shed some of their gains on Thursday's session, but is trading very close to its recent 2-month highs. Copper prices declined from the key $14,000 a ton mark on LME after having marked a record closing for last 3 to 4 trading sessions. They eased from the record high, which happens to be close to $14,531 a ton, which was touched earlier in the month of January this year, as traders took some profits while reassessing underlying supply and demand conditions. Ongoing strength in AI-related equities has also reinforced expectations for sustained investment in the data center expansion, further underpinning the copper demand prospects. Aluminium prices is where you need to keep your eye on, because in UK on LME futures, the prices have risen about $36.20 a ton, which happens to be its highest level in 4 years. Amid prolonged supply disruption from the Middle East, the pre-war supply from Gulf countries were responsible for 9% of the global supply and nearly 25% of the non-Chinese supply. Same is the case with zinc prices, which on LME futures rose above $35.50 a ton, which happens to be its highest level in more than 3.5 years amid tightening near-term supply. Decline in LME inventories alongside a narrowing cash 3-month contango signal reduced prompt availability. And last but not the least, Malaysian palm oil futures is where you need to keep your eye on, because the commodity has slipped below 4,450 Malaysian ringgit a ton, extending losses that began in early May, notching their lowest level in a month. Stronger ringgit weighed on the sentiment alongside weakness in rival edible oils that traded on Dalian and Chicago exchanges.